You're going to be hearing today from Brezden Peter, Brezden's Associate Director of Learning Tech and Measurement at Novartis, and Russ Summers, Vice President of Marketing for Quantified. Brezden and Russ, thanks for joining us today. And Russ, over to you.
Tim, thank you so very much. I appreciate the intro. We're going to cover a few things today. We'll obviously let you know who we are in terms of intros and background, but then we're going to dive deeply into implementation best practices, measuring success and impact, the role of AI in learning and development, and takeaways and Q&A. We've got a lot of great information, so let's jump into it. First off, I'm Russ. I run marketing for Quantified. I've been running marketing for SaaS companies for over 20 years, but this is truly my favorite one yet. I'm having a great time. And I have entirely too many pets and guitars, including a dog riding shotgun on my couch behind me as we talk. But I'm not nearly as interesting as Brezden. She is Associate Director of Learn Tech and Measurement at Novartis. She's been in onboarding and training for 11 years, and she is obsessed with many great things, including golden retrievers, Penn State, where she's an alum, romantic comedies, and splitting time between Peloton rides and CrossFit WODs. Now, I don't speak CrossFit, so I thought that stood for workouts of objective destruction, but what does that stand for, Preston?
Thanks, Russ. It is workout of the day. So for all my CrossFitters, we just finished the Open and love to talk about dogs, love stories, or anything that involves a good sweat.
Amazing. Thank you, Brezden. Well, one of the things that really stuck out with me when you and I talked and we worked on this content was how much your experiences uniquely prepared you for what you're doing now. So I'd love to get your take on, sort of these early experiences that you had in biz apps and then in the COVID era.
Thanks, Russ. I just want to start by saying thank you, L10 and Tim, for hosting this webinar today. The opportunity to connect with peers throughout the community is such a great experience. Russ and Quantified team, thank you for hosting us today. And to my teammates that are listening in, I am the one presenting this today, but none of it happens without you guys. So teamwork makes the dream work, and just know that I have a wonderful team behind me and leadership that supports all of this. So just wanted to give them a quick thank you, and thank you to all the peers that are listening in. With that, I just want to kind of dive into my personal experience to give you the context of how we got to where we are with Quantified. I've been at Novartis for 11 years. 3 years in onboarding, managing a Best Start program, and then 8 years in training. And 4 of those years, as Russ mentioned, were spent in business applications. So that is the CRM system. We rolled out a new account management tool, and I was in charge of the sales data platform. I was only in that role for 8 months when the world stopped and COVID hit. And because of that, we were forced very quickly at Novartis to switch to virtual platforms and technologies to support the reps, to connect with customers. And that's where a lot of my pre-existing experience paid off when we rolled out AI, when I moved into the technology role.
Well, and going full remote had to be challenging for a company like Novartis. What did you learn from that experience of the transition?
During the COVID era, and I don't think we are alone in this, we were not set up for virtual connections with customers. We had a very small field force that supported virtual connections for kind of vacant roles and territories. But aside from that small team, we really did not have a virtual avenue for our field representatives to connect with customers. So when March 2020 came around, we were forced pretty much overnight to deliver virtual platforms for our field force, which is extremely complicated. 1, because our field force at the time was iPad only. 2, we were forced to rush planning and implementation. And 3, we were trying to meet the customers wherever they were. So we wound up launching 4 different virtual platforms. And with all of these obstacles that COVID presented to us, we also did not measure. So we did not know how it was resonating with the field. And we also had extremely large field forces. So a couple things kind of happened that I still kind of have a little bit of PTSD from. One, we did not gather any feedback. Two, we did not ask the field force how it was going. We would just roll it out to entire field forces, mostly because we were in reaction mode. And because of that, I think some of the technology fell a little bit flat because we were not listening to what the field needed, and we were not adapting to kind of different concerns and things that came up. And because of this, when I moved into the measurement and learning technology role 2 years ago and partnered with Quantified, I was very opinionated about how we implemented AI with our field force.
Well, opinionated is good. Opinionated is not being in reactive mode. And what I loved in our conversations, Brezden, is how you took that experience from COVID of not measuring anything, not having a disciplined cadence, and built a model, a framework that you've found to work very effectively. So talk us through that a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. So as I mentioned, when I moved into the learning technology and measurement role approximately 2 years ago, one of my big tasks was that we needed to kind of implement AI into our learning tech stack. And we were aligned with Quantified. So when I started to meet with the Quantified team, I used all of that experience from our reaction mode of COVID to say, we need to be really thoughtful about this. And the reason is, one, we didn't measure all of our virtual platforms that we launched. Two, we need to make sure we have advocates for the technology. I'm sure if I could see some of the audience's faces, you might smirk or nod your head. As you know, if there is a negative Nancy or Ned in the field that doesn't like the technology, they will make sure that others know in the field, and it kind of spreads like wildfire. So I wanted to make sure that we combated some of the things we saw when we launched our virtual platforms. So with Quantified, we took a very thoughtful approach and picked one therapeutic area within new hire training. And by picking one therapeutic area and new hire training, we had a very controlled environment where we could work with the trainer, we could connect with the new hires, gather feedback, and make sure that we iterated. And before we ever went to another therapeutic area, we made sure that we addressed the concerns of both the trainer and the new hire in that therapeutic area. So the magic happens in the AI implementation in the middle part of this diagram, where you're constantly gathering feedback, iterating, and then adding another team. And when you add that team, not all teams have the same needs or the same concerns. So listening to the different trainers and new hires throughout the process is what makes technology rollout so successful. So that middle part of the diagram that you see on your screen, the new of the implementation practice, took us approximately 18 months. We started in June of 2023 with one therapeutic area, and we didn't roll it out to all of our therapeutic areas in new hire training until December of 2024. So that pilot group and gathering feedback and iterating and then continuing to add therapeutic areas took us quite some time. And what I said to Russ when we were talking through kind of the logistics of this presentation and why the implementation of Quantified has been so successful, I think the biggest reason is we took our time. So when we talk about impact, a lot of times leaders want to see large numbers of users and that positive impact. But if you rush things like we did during COVID, that impact could just as easily be negative. For us, taking our time, listening to the trainer, sourcing advocates so we didn't get the negative Neds or the negative Nancys, really paid off in the long run, because we now have larger groups, launches, new indications, new field forces, expansions that are coming to us, training ops, our team, and saying, we want to use Quantified, we want to use the simulator for these launches, because we took the time to establish ourselves, get the great feedback, and the new hires and the field forces believe in the technology, and our trainers believe in the technology. So taking the time, doing the little things, getting feedback, but also implementing the feedback pays off, so that when you get to the larger groups, you already have, one, the advocates, and two, you've baked adjustments and the different feedback points into the process.
Well, what's extraordinary to me about that story, Brezden, is that it then creates pull rather than pushing technology onto teams. You have teams saying, bring us this new technology, we'd like it, because you've built your reputation as rolling it out effectively and creating those advocates.
Yes.
Now, another piece out of that, though, I think what I heard was a big heartbreak in your voice when you discussed COVID was we weren't measuring anything. So given that that's a passion of yours, let's talk a little bit about measurement.
Yes, over the past 2 years in this role, I've turned into a little bit of a measurement nerd. I really, really love it. And I have a lot of thanks to give to our leadership team and our VP who support the measurement initiative and have really helped manage the change of going from not really measuring at all to measuring pretty much everything. And at Novartis, we have a very standardized measurement approach. We have questions on learner experience, content, job impact, and modalities. Everything's based on a 4-point scale. I have done a few L10 sessions at the conference last year. 4-point scales tend to be a little bit controversial. At Novartis, we want people to have an opinion. We don't want that middle number. So we're pretty passionate about a 4-point scale with measurement, and we have net promoter scores attached to pretty much everything. So how likely are you to recommend this course to a colleague? So those are our standard learning experience quantitative measures. From the qualitative perspective, which is where we spent a lot of our time with Quantified and getting the tech rollout implemented and successful, was using pilot groups and focus groups. So Hallie and Paige from Quantified, can't say enough good things about them. We spent a lot of time together meeting with those pilot groups to ask them standardized subset questions of our evaluations to see how confident were their learners with the technology. Did they feel like they were improving? Was the technology experience positive? We had the net promoter score attached to it. And then we had those focus group questions to say, what would you like to see different? Or tell me about your experience. We actually sat in classrooms and watched the new hires practice it. And I think the magic really happened in the technology rollout of Quantified by not just using the quantitative of the overall learning experience in new hire training, but meshing it with the qualitative. So what are the pilot groups actually saying? And kind of telling that big picture, that big story. And this is just our standard metrics. In a second, Russ will pivot to some of the great quantified specific metrics that we can add to our new hire measurement story to show impact.
And take us through those if you wouldn't mind, because I love that you have a sort of a global measurement framework you use across all initiatives, as it were, but every initiative also has sort of specific metrics to that initiative. So tell me a little bit about what you measured on specifically Quantified.
Yes. So for Quantified, this slide focuses on kind of some of the bigger metrics that I report up to our VP. So the number of new hires that we trained, the participation rate, practice time, and the average score of verbal assessments. The verbal assessments, which is one of our certification processes, is out of 5 points. So we can look at if Brezden practiced 10 times. On her practice verbal assessment, she got 3s, but the more she practiced, she got closer to that 5, which is a perfect score. So we can see, and we do see, a correlation between people that practice 10 or more times consistently get a higher score on their certification. So those are the higher level metrics, but what's not on this slide, which is where the magic happens with Quantified, is we have a dashboard for every single product trainer that they can go in and see their specific new hires and how they answered the question, how much time they were spending on the question, what areas are giving them issues or trouble, so that our trainers can course correct and address concerns or maybe areas where the new hires are getting tripped up and address it real time. The dashboard's available to them any time of day. They can log in, they can see how the new hires are doing. And I think it's been a game changer for the trainers to kind of address what the new hires are doing and saying, and kind of allowing them to kind of adjust their curriculum throughout new hire training. In addition to the dashboard that the trainers see, we also pulse out a very quick survey to ask the new hires about their confidence with using the avatar as it pertains to their score. We use our mobile learning strategy with that, so kind of combining different pieces of our tech stack. And it's just a simple question. We ask them if practicing with the avatar helped increase their confidence. And I will tell you consistently since June 2023, we have 90+% that agree or strongly agree that the avatar helps their confidence. And the other question that we ask them is, did it help them improve their verbal assessment scores? And again, 90+% agree or strongly agree that practicing with the avatar made their scores better. So we never had that data before adding AI and Quantified into our tech stack. We would tell the new hires to practice, but we're not watching them practice in the mirror, practice with their husband or wife or friend. So we didn't really have a tangible metric to say, yes, Susie practiced and she's ready for verbal assessments. Now we have all of this data that Quantified has given us to be able to tell the better story and say, yes, this AI technology is making our new hires better. It is improving their scores. It is allowing them to practice our messaging. And it's been such a wonderful addition to our technology stack here at Novartis.
That's amazing. And you've measured, what's interesting is the measurement, shows that engagement that you talked about. So
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about these metrics. What do they mean to you?
Yeah, so this is kind of just high level. If you just were to look very quickly into what Quantified has done for us at Novartis and AI and the impact it's had in new hire training. New hires from June 2023 to just a class ago in February are practicing 19 times, on average of 19 times. So we went from not knowing if they were practicing at all, or maybe one time with the trainer, to practicing 19 times. That's, in my mind, that's remarkable. We know that they're actually going into the avatar and spending time to make sure that they are able to articulate the disease state and the messaging for their specific product. And then we have very tangible metrics on how many hours. We have 478 hours of rep practice since we rolled out the Quantified avatar in June of 2023. And we have an 89% participation rate. So of the 400, I had this slide up just so I could give you an accurate number. For 468 new hires, there's an 89% participation rate.
That seems very solid to me. That's impressive, Brezden. And I love that the insight I'm getting from you is this brings visibility to the things you'd like to measure, but might not have been able to measure before.
Yes.
Well, and you've talked, a lot about Quantified, which I'm grateful for, by the way, because I do happen to work there. But also, I love that your approach to rolling out technology and AI is you've got sort of a broader perspective, not just a quantified perspective. So tell me a little more about how you think about rolling out AI and L&D, where it should be used, and how to do it.
Yes. So I was telling Russ and Tim in the pre-show, timing is everything. And this morning, our entire training team got an email from our VP about AI and gave us some thought-provoking questions on different ways we could use AI. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of the learner experience. We have adaptive learning in place. As I mentioned, we're using quantified avatars for AI. And I think our future, very clearly where we'll be expanding, is on training feedback. So I have measurement dashboards in Power BI, and we use Acto for new hire training. So we have dashboards for all of the metrics that I've mentioned. And we're starting to use ChatGPT and Copilot to synthesize that data. I think that will continue to expand. We're being challenged to kind of push that envelope in the best way possible. And I think the third piece is the content creation. So how can we continue to use AI to build content, to make content more engaging, to meet the learner where they are? And I think at Novartis, we truly have the privilege of having leadership that's so supportive of being creative and using AI. And I think that's why we are sort of already looking in these 3 buckets and will continue to expand. And it's just an exciting time to be in L&D. And there's a lot of really good stuff that's going on. So I hope that some of our peers across the industry are having the same experience, but we are very fortunate that we have a leadership team that's super passionate about AI. And it's been a lot of fun to roll it out across our field forces.
I love hearing that acceptance and endorsement from senior leadership. And frankly, that drives home that AI it can be a career building opportunity. The time is now to jump on it. So my slide, there we go. So Brezden, thanks for sharing all of your knowledge and experience with us. We've talked through a lot in a short time, so I wonder if you'd be kind enough to summarize for us in terms of what are the key learnings from your perspective?
Yes, so buy-in starts at the top. I addressed this on the last slide, but if you are an L&D leader on the call, it starts with you. And we are very lucky at Novartis that our VP and our leadership team are so supportive. So if you are hesitant or haven't bought into AI, jump in. We have seen nothing but great things here at Novartis. And it's so important to our leadership team. That's part of our objectives. And as the measurement and technology lead for the training operations team, I'm able to get so much more done because our leadership is so supportive of it. And then a huge shout out to the trainers because they've been so willing to embrace the change and kind of adopt the technology that the training operations team is rolling out. So it's teamwork makes the dream work, and we are very lucky both to have great leaders as well as great trainers. And if you are on this call because you want to get there, it starts with leadership. So I would encourage you to be supportive and really buy into the AI technology and measurement. And bullets 2 and 3 are kind of connected. I would say start small. Speaking from experience, when you roll out to a large field force without hearing their feedback, if the experience isn't good, it's going to quickly derail your technology. I would always encourage you to pilot first. The impact might be smaller at first, but gaining those advocates and gaining the momentum to have people support the technology will give you a greater impact in the long run, and carefully expand across those therapeutic areas. And last but not least, as I mentioned, I am a measurement nerd. Measurement results every step of the way so that you can improve, make sure that you are addressing your learners' concerns, and that you are also proving that your technology and your tech stack is strong.
Impressive. I have truly learned a lot today, Brezden, in the process from the conversation. I'm very grateful to you for that. I'm very grateful to L10 for hosting this conversation so we can get this information out there. I'd like to encourage, I actually saw a note in the chat where someone was saying, hey, Brezden, can I connect with you? Awesome. Her LinkedIn is there. Feel free to connect. Mine is there. Feel free to connect. Feel free, if you'd like to see Quantified, to ask us for a demo at that top link or scan the QR code. Or if you'd just like to learn more, we've got a ton of resources, case studies, information, etc., that may be helpful to you on the Quantified site. And from there, I'd love to transition over to question and answer.
Sounds great.
So Tim, do you want to step in?
I could jump in and do this for you if you'd like.
Sure, go for it, bud.
We got a good question here. Lots of good questions, folks. If you have any questions, send them on in now. Let me start with this one, Brezden. How does this integrate into your LMS?
Great question. Currently, Quantified is not integrated into our LMS for new hire training, but it is on our roadmap for this year to start to integrate this data into our bigger new hire story.
Excellent, thank you. And has this also been implemented on the medical side with your MSLs?
It has, yes. We are using Quantified with our medical team.
Excellent. Another question, have you used this technology with your clinical operations team?
No, I do not believe
Okay, no
so. We are
problem.
also not responsible for their training. It's separate, but I do not believe we are using Quantified with the clinical team.
Excellent. A question about the dashboard. Can you tell
Yeah.
me more about the dashboard and how it's shared with the in-house trainers?
Are we speaking about the quantified dashboard? If we're speaking of the quantified dashboard,
Yes.
which I think we are, it is built into the app and the trainers have access and they can go in at any time to see the practice rates and the actual questions. But I don't know, I just want to clarify, was that the question?
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
If not, Angie can let us know.
perfect.
Was the initiative, yes, it was about the quantified dashboard. Thank you, Angie. A question from Jason. Was this initiative required to go through a Gen AI console, and how was that process?
Great question. We were early at Novartis, the training team was, where we started using Quantified before our AI council was fully implemented. But we were also fortunate that we were using Quantified in a different capacity. So it was globally approved very early. Quantified has another functionality called Igniting Impact, where it's used for presentation skills. And our CEO and his whole leadership team were using Igniting Impact and Quantified before we even brought it on as an AI solution with the avatar. So the short answer is we already had approval to use Quantified at Novartis before we started implementing the avatars. So we've had approval from a very early stage. There is a AI council at Novartis that's starting to look at some of the other questions I see coming through the chat. We do have Copilot. We do have an internal chat GPT. And as we start to add more AI, there is a council that reviews that internally at Novartis.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Russ, I'm going to throw one to you if I can.
Do it.
Following up on the LMS from Deb, she asked, does Quantified integrate with any specific LMS systems?
Short answer is it's not difficult to. We use like an iPass integration platform as a service, and there are many of those out there. People know Zapier, but there are more enterprise level ones, and it is not difficult for us to connect to anything. And that's the wonderful thing about software is it's all code, it's all bits and bytes. And if you want to integrate one system with another, you just look for the fastest route to do that. We've done that with other customers, and it's pretty simple depending on the LMS we're integrating with.
Excellent. Brezden, I'm going to jump back over to you for a question that's right up your alley. How are you measuring the learning retention 6 months or a year post initial onboarding?
Great question. We have manager evaluations 60 days post new hire training to ask how the learning is resonating in the field. And we send that using our mobile learning strategy. So we text our field. So all they have to write back is a letter, which has greatly increased our feedback response rate. And then the second piece of the puzzle is we are getting ready to launch a phase 3, which will have additional training. And we will, again, measure the objectives of new hire training for phase 3. So more measurement will be coming. But right now we're checking in with those managers for that level 3 retention.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, it looks like we're just about at the top of the hour. So I'm going to look at chat really quickly here again. I think we're out of questions, folks. If we have any questions we didn't get to, we'll try to get answers for you offline. Brezden and Russ, thank you both very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim,
Thank you
for having us. And thank you, Russ.
Brezden, thank you. This has been priceless.